Ms. Meena Murthy Kakkar. Ms. Kakkar is the design head at Envisage Projects, an interior and architecture firm specializing in design and build projects. Meena pursued a Bachelor of Architecture from the School of Planning and Architecture in Delhi, after which she started her design quest as a partner at Envisage Projects, along with Vishal Kakkar. With her 19 years of design experience, Meena has paved a glorious path for a practice that is embedded with robust design principles and provides comprehensive solutions for all requirements. Today, she will present a project Ukyo, a residential project she has recently designed.
I would like to talk about this project. Why? I mean, we do a lot of work. So why only this project? What is so special about this project? The fact is that this project lay at the cusp of the pandemic, and it gave us, I mean, it changed the way the client looked at a residential project and the way we approached a residential project. So this stands for a lot of metamorphosis in the processes also. So I thought maybe this is a good example to talk about. So what does Ukyo mean? Ukyo, why did we name it Ukyo? Because Ukyo stands for the floating world. It's a Japanese word for living in the moment, and it's detached from the troubles of life. So this was initiated during the first wave of the pandemic, where all hell broke loose and we didn't know what to do, what was happening, what hit us. And the client was totally involved in this because the client was a doctor. And the client is actually a very senior gynecologist. And this house was designed as a respite house for her children and her grandchildren. Now, the client already has a house in South Delhi, and she had a clinic operating out of her house. And because of the pandemic, suddenly she was, everybody, all the clients, nobody wanted to go to a hospital. They all wanted to come home because, a gynecologist obstetrician, they're dealing with pregnant women, and nobody wanted to risk going to a hospital at that point of time. So suddenly her house was very crowded, and her children who are from the IT sector, they were also working from home. As a result, the toddler grandchildren that she had, they got stuck in the house. So now they wanted a secondary home for themselves, where the purpose of that house would just to be talk to each other, interact with each other, let the children play, and let us enjoy a regular life, get out of this chaos that surrounds us. So that is where the concept of the second home came from. This is the kind of neighborhood that they were part of, and this is where they shifted to. So it was a drastic shift from where they were. Now, what was the idea when we were talking of the pandemic, and this was the first time we were talking of all these aspects, and what is it that we wanted to represent through the house? So the first thing that the house needed to embody was joy. Okay, so obviously, with so much of negativity around us, the media was on and on about it, and then there was just so much pain around everyone. So we thought, let's bring joy in, let's use colors. The second is the value of togetherness definitely increased because of this, and interactive spaces got more importance as opposed to pre-pandemic times. The third thing we wanted to do was talk about visual serenity. Now, all said and done, Delhi is a place where it's chaotic. There's a lot of, the density of the place is really high. And that does bring in all of that element into the house also. So when they moved out to Gurgaon, in a little remote place, they wanted peace, and that thing had to be brought into the house as well. So we had to give them a very well defined layout. And of course, a house being a house has to have storage, so we had to design a lot of subdued storage as well. Then of course, good health, natural light and ventilation goes without saying. And of course, because she was a doctor, they also needed a sanitation zone right at the entrance of the house, so that no one brings in any germs into the house with the children around. This is the existing plan of the apartment. So this, as you could see, there's an entrance, there's a servant storeroom in the front, there's a living space, there's a huge blank space. But what it does is that there were a lot of disproportionate spaces also going on. So we had to start looking at what all we could do. So just give me a second. Yeah. This is the entrance. The entrance, if you see, is on the left, but they decided, and together we said, okay, let's take it through the store. The store became a sanitation room for us. And this is how we designed this. This was a sanitation room. And then you enter into the main house. The main house had obviously a living room, but the challenge of this space was that there were very less walls, if you see. And so we had to kind of increase the walls at certain places, bring in some more elements. Then the third space was too linear. Again, another problem of proportions. So what did we do? We brought in a wall, and then we said, okay, let's bring the dining in and let's hide all the storage behind that. But before that, we also realized that the proportions of the house were a little tricky to, kind of work around with. So I'll come to that when we start showing you the pictures as to what we did to solve these issues. Then the hidden space, or the cordoned off space, was a multi-purpose space which had the storage, the puja, multi-purpose table, etc. Then of course there were the bedrooms which had to be done up. Now, what are the challenges? The challenge was that the space we had was a little less for the kind of luxury that they imagined, and it was truly a challenge. And the pandemic kept on throwing the work in a tizzy. So what are the solutions that we came across? One was obviously a very smart layout had to be derived, and smaller design elements or treatments had to be built in to ensure that the space was more seamless. For instance, we hid that sanitation room door. I'll just come to the pictures and I'll show you how we hid that door. I'll show you. Then, of course, most of the work which we carry till date is that the work was done off-site. And, earlier we used to make a lot of things at site. Now everything was done off-site. We did introduce paneling work in the walls to ensure that the electrical modification that needs to be done in a house for ease of working gets done while the furniture is being fitted in, instead of, some other worker, standing there and working. So the on-site work had to be reduced. So this was the final layout that we did. And if you look at it, there's a sanitation room and there's a door that comes out of it. There's a living room. The dining, if you see, what we did was we pushed it against a wall and we gave it one of those restaurant style seating. We put a sofa against the wall to ensure that there is more circulation space around that. Then this was where we started from. And then we went through this process and finally came to this. If you see this first picture, the panel on the right side after the planter is actually the door. So we camouflaged it using the same treatment as the wall paneling. And you could, if you look at the floor, you will see the door. So you'll see there's a small gap there, and that's the door. So we kind of hid that, and we started bringing the colors. If you see, there's a nice, beautiful coral happening here. That's our lovely dining room. And the dining room, as I said, we did, we put the sofa on one side, brought in a little blue. Blue is primarily the color of this house. And the partition that we created to hide the storage behind it, we put some nice mirrors, gave it a little Art Deco treatment. And just so that, it doesn't look like a partition. It doesn't seem as if we've cut the house short there. So there is still, there's a continuity, there's a flow that you can see behind it. That's the living room extension where you have the TV and some nice little storages and things. So if you look at it, again, we had to hide the distribution board onto the left. If you see, there's a paneling, there's a ribbed paneling, and you can see a small projection there, which is kind of camouflage, and that's all the wires and distribution boards. So, you have to do all of that as well. And that's, again, the colorful living room, the dining. It's a small house. So just so that we could put one more sofa in front of the main sofa, we added the slats onto the left that you can see, the wooden slats. So just to increase the increase the length of that wall and define the living room better. This is the doctor's bedroom, and she wanted it nude. We were in absolute agreement that the lesser we don't want it too stark. So let the colors be subtle, and we kind of put in a lot of hand embroidered curtains in the house, again bringing in a little element of art. Now, as we, as the time has passed through the pandemic, we realize that a lot of people want to get back to their roots, So art is making a huge, huge comeback, and people do realize the importance of these, small, small handmade things around the house, which add to a lot of joy. So all the curtains that you see here are all hand embroidered. The storages, again, as I previously mentioned, were very subdued, very subtle. They were there, but you still can't, it's not in your face at all. This is the children's room. The children are 2 and 4, so quite small kids, but they didn't want a space which they would outgrow within like 2-3 years. So we gave them a very subtle looking kids room, so that they can keep changing it and adding colors to it as they grow, but the main structure kind of remains nice and still relevant. So again, a lot of sunny colors. If you see this, a lot of sunshine colors here happening in this room. This is the master bedroom. Master bedroom again had a lot of grays and blues. Again, there was a lot of emphasis on the curtains that you can see there. Again, block printed curtains that we've used. So this is a very, very simple thing, but this is exactly how we went about it, and that's it. And these are the vendors that we worked with. So all in all, I would say that pandemic has made us, there are 3 major changes that were brought in here. Okay, there were 3 changes that it brought in. One is, of course, the need to own a bigger house or to probably upgrade your own house. That call was pretty much loud, and the residential sector kind of went up after the pandemic, because since everyone is stuck at home, they realized that the house needs to be better organized. Okay, and everyone has a particular requirement of working in a space, and then also coming together and congregating. So that was necessary. That was one thing. The second is that the design focus completely shifted from what will my neighbor think to what I want. So the house was, it became more of a symbol of what the owner is all about and what is it that they truly associate with, as opposed to what is going to impress someone else, which was the trend previously. And of course, the third is, of course, the way we deal with technology and uncertainty. That I think we are becoming more of a pro now as time progresses. So yes, these are the 3 main, I think, things. And this project kind of set it all in motion for us. So it's a simple project, but it proved to be an important one for us. That's it.
Absolutely right. You rightly said that it is. Thank you so much for submitting a pandemic-inspired project, a residential project, and it is really fabulous. Can you also talk to us about what kind of flooring materials you use for that project?
So there are 2 kinds of flooring happening here. They wanted a seamless look in the formal area. So formal areas have Italian, Botocino, very starting range, not a very high end. And the bedrooms have a wooden flooring because, they wanted a little warmth there. So that's the only kind of flooring that we've used. And of course, kitchen had to be tiles because that's the only thing that can bear and take the ruggedness of our Indian cooking. So that's something that we always stick to. So that's a flooring.
Thank you so much, Ms. Meena, for submitting your project, presenting your project.